Town trucks just going by. They're doing a great job.
Yeah, they just went by my street too. Okay, it's 5:15. I'm going to call this Board of Selectmen special meeting to order. Would everybody join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We're going to have a slight change here for those listening. We're going to start with MIS. Dan, you have a presentation for us?
Yep. Either I can share it or I just sent it to Marcia as well. So, Marcia, if you don't mind, I'll just share it off from my screen.
That should be fine.
Go right ahead.
And come on, computer. Screen 2. All right. Alrighty, so obviously everybody here in the Zoom meeting already knows me, but for anybody else watching from home, my name is Dan. Up until around Thanksgiving, I was just a technician in the IT department, but when our previous manager retired, I've been asked to take on her responsibilities. So this is my first budget season with us. I was told to keep this pretty simple, so I'm not going to go over the details of how many computers we have, how many printers, what our day-to-day responsibilities are. The big thing I wanted to discuss is just what big projects we've had going on recently. So our first set of projects, whereas the ongoing stuff, obviously with coronavirus coming up, we've had a lot of new laptops come in. We had 30 laptops that we set up for people to work from home, plus a few people already had their own. And obviously for right now, we're using Zoom. So one of my biggest things going on throughout the year has been hosting and facilitating the meetings for the town boards, town departments. We've had over 300 Zoom meetings in the system logged. A large number of them have been the land use commissions, and the senior center has actually been running a lot of their day-to-day things rather than having Zumba or yoga or anything else in the buildings. They've been running it off in the Zoom account. So I've been helping train people for those and get things up and running for that. Also, one of the big things that we've had coming up more for the employee side is our new timekeeping system. For the past couple months now, we've been working with the Board of Ed and the WPCA, going through figuring out what we need to change in our systems to work, how to set things up for the new system. It's still an ongoing process. We're hoping, I think, Marcia, we're looking at getting probably July that we're starting up, I think it was, with the schools.
I think we're trying to do a little before July, but yes.
So obviously that one's going to be still going on for a while. Other than that, recently we've had a few systems, especially with less people being in the building, more concerns about people being able to work remotely. We've migrated a couple of our systems from being hosted in-house to being hosted at the vendor's own cloud solutions. So back in October, the assessor's tax and parcel information system was migrated out, and the tax collector and assessor, their other system as well, was migrated off. So that's two big systems that we've had. It used to be in-house. Unfortunately, the software was getting outdated on it. It was something where no matter what, we were going to have to upgrade it. Moving off to the cloud puts a lot of that on the vendor itself for keeping the upgrades and things in place, but it's more on our side for monitoring, maintaining it, making sure that the users still have the access that they need to for it. Beyond that, obviously, again, with coronavirus going on, from December through to even today, actually, this morning, I was at the senior center for most of the day. We've been working with the health department for the planning, the setup, and the operation of our vaccine clinics. For my part, it's mostly been on the computer side, making sure that all of our computers are working for them, making sure that the nurses are able to go through, log things in the system, and usually just following up. We've had times where we've had internet troubles or a nurse's login wasn't working, following up between them, the state, and the CDC to make sure that everything gets logged properly and everybody is able to do what they need to in the system. Obviously, that'll keep going on. We're looking at just adding more groups of people into it, more nurses administering the vaccines. So for the foreseeable future, we'll continue working with our health department to continue getting everybody into the system there. Beyond that, we're also having some changes around town hall with the land use office being redesigned. I know the boards have been talking about this recently for getting the approvals in it. I've also been getting involved for what's going to need to be done for our networks. Obviously, we can't just pick up a desk and move it over. We also have to make sure that the networking equipment is there, that we have new network jacks in place if we need them. Even just copiers and maps and files getting moved around. I've been helping make sure that we have a telephone and computer equipment in place and live wherever we need it in the building. And actually, that's pretty much it for major projects I've got going on for this year. Looking at future stuff, I haven't actually put in requests or plans for a lot of major future projects. I want to actually go through what we have in place right now, get more comfortable with it myself before I make any more major asks of the boards for any funding or anything like that. My biggest thing right now is mostly just ironing out what we have, getting the dollar amounts and things right before I come asking for amounts without having the documentation or anything to back it up. So going forward with our budget request for this year, again, rather than going line by line, item by item, I was told the best thing would be show you what big things are changing, what things I'm looking at doing, what savings I found for you. So our equipment budget, I know you've got your budget books to look through if you want to follow the lines on it. We were able to save a little bit of money on this year. Obviously, our maintenance and repair, a lot of it is going to be our printers, our computers. With less people in the building, we've got less really to worry about for wear and tear on our printers. So a lot of our savings has been, we're really not printing as much anymore. People are doing more forms online, more forms by email, and not as much paper. Also, along the same lines, we have these large-scale copiers for printing off maps for the commissions or for the land use in town clerk's office. One of these printers, I actually don't know specifically how old it is. Looking at manuals for it, it was manufactured sometime between 1996, 1998. The only people in the building who would have known when it was actually bought for us retired between 5 and 12 years ago. So this printer itself obviously has had a good life. It has gotten old. It's printed over 340,000 maps. I had a maintenance contract on it before, but I'm looking at discontinuing that going forward. We have another map copier, and it's most likely going to be something where I will keep it running as long as possible, but it's not worth paying a maintenance contract on it where they may not even have the parts to give us for it. So obviously we're going to save a bit there. In a few years down the road, I may ask about getting, as a capital project, getting a new printer, but that's not going to be for a few years out at this point. One of our first increases that you're going to see on our budget is our communications lines. There are the typical small increases, things like Frontier, Charter, our providers, where they have their annual increases that we really have no major control over. Those are relatively minimal for this. The bigger thing that you're going to see for our telephone system, the January of last year, we added the ability for our calls out to 911 to actually show the town address rather than just showing the generic area. It was obviously something that needed to happen because we couldn't have people have to call 911 and then have the officers not know specifically where the call came from. Other than that, we've added in, as everybody at home has most likely been seeing, the Code Red software, where we have our phone calls, our emails, and our text messages out to the residents. That was something that we implemented new last year as part of our coronavirus expenses, but we're looking at keeping this going forward. It's something where we've definitely seen some good use out of it. We've had a lot of good response from people. So we're looking at continuing that going forward. That's, I believe, around $5,500 a year. Beyond that, we're looking at emails. We've had a few pieces of not necessarily missing stuff, but we've had new people that we wanted to add in. The fire marshals, the fire departments, they've had their own email addresses before, but wanting to get a unified look. We want to have, instead of Candlewood Fire, Center Fire, Town Hall, we want to have more of our main people that are visible to the public have a brookfieldct.gov email address. So that way, if somebody sees a message coming from them, they see that Brookfield CT, they know it is the town rather than having to question it. We pay per person on that. Typically, it's only a few dollars a month, but as we start adding more and more people, we do want to be aware that that will be an additional cost there. Next is our travel expenses. Obviously, with coronavirus, there's not much traveling going on anymore. We typically had one major conference a year we go to for our financial system, but at this point, especially with the way travel is, I'm pulling that off of the budget and going more for personal training. At this point, with myself being new to the department, new to the management position, I wanted to be able to better serve the town and the community. So I'm looking at getting certifications, project management, more IT level stuff, so I can better help and just have the correct position going forward for that. For our office supplies and technical supplies, they've been two separate lines on our budget, but there's always been a little bit of back and forth between them. So my big thing this year was cleaning up a bit. There were some things where I had, say, paper for our copiers in office supplies, but paper for our map printers over in technical supplies. So the amounts up and down between these two are more me finding the proper balance of which things should be out from which account. So I've consolidated our actual toner, paper, ink into the office supplies. And in doing that, obviously, again, we've had less people printing because everybody's working remotely. So we did see some good savings in there. On the hardware side as well, I saw there was a few lines where we had, again, the maintenance contract. We had some of it in the technical supplies, some of it in the hardware maintenance. So I was able to consolidate those and see some savings there as well. And the last big savings I saw in the technical supplies was we had a one-time ask for the registrar's department to get laptops for voter registration. So that was something where it really was a one-time thing, but it was left in there as a recurring cost. So we pulled that out for this year. But also on the hardware note, as what part of your discussions last year, a lot of things had been in capital as a recurring capital expense, but it was decided that some things that are under that there are certain thresholds are going to be operating expenses instead. So we've got a new $5,000 line for hardware. That's going to be my replacements of computers around the building. Typically, I would be asking for more than 5,000 on this, but especially because we had the coronavirus laptops we bought last year, we don't need to buy as many new computers this year going forward. The $5,000 line item itself, if we looked at just starting fresh every year on that, that would be probably about a 10 to 12 year range for me to replace every single computer in the building. So again, it's something we're coming forward. I may ask for a little bit more on that, but this year, because we have the supplemental laptops from the coronavirus, we don't need to look at as much of an increase this time. The last biggest thing that we have on here is our software line. We did add a little bit as a capital project last year to increase the storage on our cloud backups. This is just for retention of our own files in the buildings, backups of our servers and critical information. By increasing that last year, we were able to hold on to data for a bit longer, have more in-depth backups of some of our things. So that way we could restore back farther or have at least more of a log of changes that happened. But that was, again, as a capital project, but we're looking at obviously continuing this going forward. We don't want to have it just 1 year of more storage and then cut short. The other big things we've added is, since we've added a lot of laptops for the people for working from home or for the supervisors, that also increased the licensing needs for our virus protection and our patch and inventory management system. That would be our Sentinel-1 and Desktop Central software. The licenses in that, even though we're going to be replacing, say, what somebody's desktop dies, if we have a laptop, we will replace it. So we may see these drop down a bit farther in the future. But for now, we do still need to support both items at the same time. The biggest change, though, here is those cloud services that we did, migrating the assessor and the collector software. Those are things where it started off this year, but each year going forward, we're going to be continuing with that. It does help us a lot because it puts a lot of the responsibility on the vendors to make sure that the backups are in place, to make sure that any problems that come up are dealt with in a timely manner by them rather than having to just rely on me as the only person to fix it. But of course, it is going to be a little bit more expensive than doing it in-house. And the last item I really want to have on there was the timekeeping software. It's going to be a big system going forward, but we are looking at seeing a lot of just ease of use and complexity fixes in the payroll system, making it more efficient and easier to get everybody in there across the board. That's pretty much it for what I had for my major changes. Beyond that, was there anything you guys had questions about?
Dan, how much is one of the new laptops?
The new laptops, a lot of it depends on specifically what we're looking for using it for. If we're using it for, say, the registrars, where they're using it just for elections and not much else, we can typically get by with, say, like a $500 or $600 laptop. But if we're looking at one of our department users where they're using it every day, 8 hours a day, and we want it to last 5, 6, 8 years, typically those are closer to the $900, $1,000 price point. And on top of that, there's a few other accessories needed. If they're going to be using it in the building, we'll typically have a docking station. So they have monitors in the building, the docking station, keyboard and mouse, all right there. They plug in one wire, it's working. They unplug it, they bring the laptop home to continue from home. Monitors, for an external monitor, we typically see about $150. Most of our users, we want to have 2 monitors, especially if they're doing something like spreadsheets and websites updates where they want to see side by side. The docking station itself is another $200 or so. And then any little things like the keyboards, the mice, things like that.
So our plan is to go with laptops going forward for almost everybody, so that if we have another problem like this, everyone can immediately, if they have to, be able to work from home.
Yep, grab and go. Yep.
Dan, is that the end of your presentation?
Unless you have any other questions, Harry? Yes, that's it.
Well, I have one question for either you or Marcia or Steve, and it's on the non-union wage. I'm not questioning that. I just want to be able to understand it. I'm a little confused, and I just want to be able to understand it. The 2.25% increase. That's for the new year, correct? 2021, 22.
Yes.
Marcia, I'll let you take for
Yes.
you and Steve. Yeah, take that one.
Is that
Yeah.
correct?
On that. Harry, when our previous IT director left, we decided not to replace the position right now.
Right,
He became the director of IT.
right.
Give him a $10,000 raise.
Yeah, no, that's it. I just don't see that. I'm not questioning.
Yeah, you don't see it because it's intra-year. So we
Okay,
give him a $10,000 raise,
okay,
and next year he'll get the 2.25% increase.
okay.
If you look,
Isn't that, I think that's in our book, though. It's the
if you
interim
look
bump.
at the reconciliation, Harry, at the
Second
end of your expenditure book, there's a payroll reconciliation that shows last year's wages to this year's wages.
Right,
And it should show up in there as a change in position.
okay, yeah, yeah, and again, I'm not questioning at all, the extra money, or it just in our book, in our budget book, the 10,000 is in parentheses, and I thought that was a savings, and I had assumed that we gave a $10,000 increase. I just
Yeah.
misread this. I just was a little confused.
So
The savings is in not replacing the IT director at, I think, 98,000 some odd dollars per year.
Okay, yeah, I just was a little confused.
Yeah, that's right. I do want to say one thing here. We have hired some people, Dan's hired a couple people to help with the Zoom meetings as monitors, doing what he does at meetings, make sure everybody can get on, that everybody has access. Dan is going to try to do this job on his own, right? Without replacing anybody. We're going to see how that works and review it in another 6 months. It may be too much. So I may be coming to the boards and saying, hey, we need somebody half-time, or we need a tech person to help Dan, but we're going to play that by ear. And I just want to be upfront.
Steve, would that be like an inter-system move where we would get someone who's already familiar with what we're doing, like somebody in town hall, rather than go out,
I'm not sure we could find the skill sets we needed in town hall.
Okay.
The IT stuff is pretty technical and
Yeah.
pretty correct. So we would probably be pay, if we hired somebody full-time, we'd probably have to pay between 55 and 65,000.
Yeah, okay,
We're gonna try it without.
yeah.
Yeah. If you see me back like this later on, that's when you know, right?
Good luck, Dan, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. You're doing a great job.
Dan's budget just real quickly so people watching can see what it is.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't prepared for that, but hold on. Let me pull it up. Expenditures.
Just so people can see what the numbers were, what they are this year.
Mhm. You're saying the first page of his tab in our book?
Right.
It's coming up. It just takes a minute to think it through.
Yeah, I would say, my questions were the ones that Dan had gone over anyway. What was the increase for communications and,
Mhm.
office supplies, software, that's all. But he answered them. So thank you, Dan.
Dan is very thorough, very nice very great to deal with
Yes.
for us. So, okay, so here is screen share. Screen 2. All right.
Can we make that a little bigger?
You bet. I was just thinking that.
There we go.
And he did a nice job of pointing out the things that he just talked about, why they were changing. And part of the reason why we can afford to potentially have less people in that department or less hours in that department is because some of these costs going to the cloud is more expensive, but we may be saving the money on salaries.
That's correct. And also, which of the systems, Dan, was it that we had no choice but to go to the cloud because they were going to stop supporting the in-house server?
Yeah, the assessors program, it's called Vision. The version we had was on a server from 2003, and the software itself was no longer supported. We were going to have to upgrade it no matter what. At that point, upgrading it, going to the cloud was the more reasonable option of doing that versus a brand new complete system in-house.
Okay, thank you. So overall, you can see that, and this is unusual, the department budget is down 20% year to year.
Mhm.
That's probably a one-time event.
Steve, I got one other quick question, and forgive me if I'm missing something. The directors, the savings from the retirement, the director, is that just going back into our, our savings, or, I mean, is that shown someplace? Is that the 83?
Yeah, it's in the 83.
Okay.
So we're paying 83,000 less next year than we planned to this
Okay.
year.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay. Sue, any other questions? Are you comfortable? Sue just went away. I'm comfortable with this. Harry, are you comfortable? No more questions?
I am. Thank you.
I think Sue said she was comfortable too. So, Dan, thank you. Good job. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Looking forward to working with you all. So
I'm good, thank you. Yes, thank you, Dan. You're doing a great job.
Just quickly, has Vans been able to fix that problem yet?
we are still looking at some issues in the vaccine system. I'll let you know as soon as I hear anything back from the help desk on that one.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Dan. Why don't we move on to Parks and Rec? And Mary.
Certainly, just to let everybody know, Chris still hasn't arrived, but I'm happy to start, and hopefully he'll be here by the time we start talking about our capital projects and equipment purchases. Marcia, do you have our presentation? Thank you.
Can you see it there? No,
No,
that's the wrong screen. That's why. Let's see. Share screen. All right. You should be able to see it now.
Thank you very much. And please excuse me, but I hear Chris at the door. May I go get him set up and come right back in 30 seconds?
sure.
Thank you.
No, just leave him outside in the cold.
Hey, Steve, I got a question while she's gone.
Yeah.
The seasonal wages, I mean, it's going up by, I think, $20, $21. What are the, I mean, I thought that was like seasonal wage. I'm confused there.
Well, I don't have it right. Wait a minute, let me pull it up.
Harry, I'm going to pull that up, but I know that we went through it. I went through in detail any of those seasonal or part-time type things. Let me put my face up here. Any of those seasonal or part-time type things, I went through on each of the departments to try and get the right number of hours, that some were overstated. And here and in Public Works, they seem to have been chronically understated. And so we did go through and adjust that. And while she is doing her presentation, I'm going to pull that up and
You ready
get
to
your answer for you.
And I'm not concerned about spending an extra $21. I just thought it was, I just wasn't sure what.
Yeah, every year we try to get a little more exact, you know, Harry, and dig in a little deeper.
Well, that's
And,
pretty deep.
Hey, $21 is $21.
I got it.
I'll refresh my mind on that while she's talking.
Yeah, don't drive yourself crazy, Marcia. I just was, I mean, I was just curious as to what the other wages were. Not that I'm questioning the $21. So.
Understood.
I got you.
Very exact.
Oh, is this Parks and Rec that you're talking about, or grounds?
Parks and
Recreation.
Oh,
Recreation.
under recreation, yes. What that is grounds was the one I was thinking of. But what Parks and Recreation is that they have a clerk that, and the clerk gets paid for the extra hours for, like you have Ginny, and the Board of Finance has Diane Sarasoli. They
Right,
also
right.
have a clerk.
Okay.
And so we were just working with those hours to try and get it right.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your diligence. That's digging deep. Thank you.
Yeah, we tried
But
to do
under,
it.
but
all
under seasonal,
part-time.
I guess it falls under sporadic wages though, but if she's, the secretary for the monthly meetings.
So it is sporadic wages, and the difference between seasonal / sporadic / intern, the difference between that category and part-time is part-time. If you are going to look at the budget 50% through the year, it should be 50% done. And if someone doesn't really correlate between the number of months and the, if you can't prorate it, then we put it under sporadic. And that one is on and off. And last year it was off quite a bit because they didn't have any meetings, or they met during the day. So there wasn't extra pay.
Thank you, Marcia.
Thank you. Mary taught me all that, so I just repeated it back to you.
Okay, Mary, any other questions, or can Mary take it away?
No, I was just passing time.
Go ahead, Mary.
All right, thank you. So I'll try to be brief again, because I know that everybody who I can see on the video call is fully aware of what we do, but I'm Mary Knox, I'm the Park and Rec Director, and being joined by Chris Rebuse, who's our Park Supervisor this evening. Marcia, we go next. Thank you. So what we do is we're known for mowing and landscaping, maintenance of the ball fields, garbage removal, leaf removal, plowing. We also do irrigation systems, seasonal water systems, maintenance of playgrounds, trail maintenance. We support a lot of the other organizations in town as well, from Brookfield Baseball through the Conservation Commission, high school athletics. We support the Town Center District by installing and removing the seasonal decorations and the banners. We water the hanging flower plants there. We also maintain the bus shelter and clear the snow as needed for access, which has been very frequently these last few weeks. And basically our very essence is to set the stage for the use and enjoyment of town properties by our residents. And we accomplish these tasks with 4 full-time employees currently, including a working supervisor. And we also supplement with contracted services and seasonal employees during peak times of the year. What we do for recreation, if we're talking about pre-COVID, what we're known for is we're known for our popular after-school programs, our Friday night ski programs, youth basketball leagues, our big special events where we can have hundreds of people coming together at the same time, our concert in the park series, the Town Park Beach swimming lessons, a robust summer camp program, and a variety of adult education enrichment classes. And we offer those with 3 full-time employees, myself, our recreation supervisor, and our administrative assistant. And we like to think that we're always evolving here at Parks and Recreation, and probably no more so than we have since February of 2020. And just to give you an idea of how things have been different since then, for the Parks Department, we've taken on a few additional responsibilities. We've now are maintaining the Old South Cemetery on Sutton Hill Road. We do the mowing and the spring and fall cleanups. We're now responsible for the mowing of the farmers market area, which had actually not been lawn before the spring of 2020, as well as lawn maintenance at the former Grimes property at 43 Silver Mine. The recent addition of the glass recycling container, which is a great benefit for the town, has actually required us to start plowing that area, which we never did before. And we've made trail maintenance a priority since we've wanted to choose to support the increased use of the town parks. Since the pandemic, the use of parks has really exploded. It's a fantastic thing. We're so fortunate in town to have so many parks and open spaces, and we've been really trying to support the community use of those. And most recently, we've installed and provided daily maintenance for our new seasonal ice rink at Williams Park, The rink opened back on January 30th and is still open as of today. I'm not sure what's going to happen later this week when the temperatures creep up to 45 or 50, but we're hoping we might get some cold weather and be able to have it reopened again soon. And then for recreation, our accomplishments throughout the pandemic, we're really proud because when a lot of other communities said, no, we can't, we found ways to say, yes, we can. We did that with our summer concerts in the park series, which was again fully funded by sponsorship revenue and was safely offered in compliance with all the sector rules that we needed to follow. We also chose to live stream them on YouTube to allow our residents to enjoy them from the comfort of their homes. The town beach opened and operated safely during the summer of 2020, and we served our residents by switching to a reservation system so we could remain compliant with social distancing. We safely offered our summer camp programs following the guidelines from the Office of Early Childhood. We did offer a variety of virtual programs in 2020, spring 2020, as well as virtual and outdoor in-person programs during the fall of 2020 and the winter of 2021, following all the guidelines that we needed to. And the Board of Education was gracious enough to allow us to use the school buildings last summer to hold our summer camp programs. Understandably, we have not had access to the schools since that point in time. So what that's made us do is just to get a little extra creative. And we found that you actually can play outside when it's 25 degrees on a plowed off turf field and have fun. So, so we are doing lots of different things to try to make sure that people still have opportunities to be engaged outdoors and safely throughout the winter months. We've worked with youth sports leagues to educate the leadership and to make sure they're following the DCD sector rules and helped in review of their COVID protocols. And we've introduced a whole slew of new events that could be safely offered throughout the times of the pandemic, keeping in mind that the guidelines have been changing frequently. We did our Drive Around Egg Hunt and our Egg Hunt to Go programs back in March 2020. We've done Best Hand Poker Heights, smartphone trivia and jukebox bingo, our Haunted House driving tour, and their Home for the Holidays driving tour, which we worked with the Arts Commission on, are just a few of the different events that we have gone to. So what resources are important to us? We're going to spend just a couple of moments talking about the parks budget drivers, recreation budget drivers, our next priority item, which is our third grounds maintainer, and then funding of some capital projects and equipment. So as we were asked to stick to a 0% increase for our operating budget whenever possible, we did do our best to try to work within those guidelines. Right now, our budget drivers for parks is we have a salary and wages total of $4,707, which includes everything except for salary increases for our 3 union personnel. Our projects, equipment, and facility maintenance lines were held at a 0 increase. We do expect increases in costs for portalet rentals and refuse removal to increase throughout the year. We're also going to have an obligation that's not funded through the budget to replace the banners as needed in the town center district. But we do hope to manage these additional costs within our existing budget as we're trying to be respectful of that 0% increase. So the net increase to that Parks Department budget is $207 since we had a $4,500 one-time expense for tree work in the cemetery last year, which is not being requested this year.
Mary, we got a grant for neglected cemeteries. I think it was $2,500. Was that included in your budget or no?
No, I'm not. I was not aware of that.
Okay.
That is in the budget fund. We've accounted for it, but not here.
Yeah, we just got to make sure we account for it, and expenses for maintaining the cemeteries is applied against that. For like the one on Sunset, we can apply that to that.
Yep, we got it.
Okay.
And then for our recreation operating budget drivers, again, salaries and wages, $5,173, which includes proposed increases for non-union, commission secretary, and longevity for the union position. It does not include union salary increase as it's not negotiated yet. And all of our other lines combined, we have an additional $747 requested. We do have a known $1,000 increase in the cost of our software support for our e-track, which is effective on July 1st. We did go through very carefully reviewing where we thought we could offset some of those costs. We do have a reduction in our office supply line of $113 and our travel and conferences line of $140, which would keep our net increase to $5,920 altogether.
All right. Great. Any questions, Sue?
No.
Harry?
So we would like to spend a little bit of time again this year talking about our next priority item. It's a huge priority for our department, and that's to try to get a third grounds maintainer to join our very small, hardworking department here. So just a little bit of background. Back in 2008, the Parks Department actually had a staff of 7. We had 6 grounds maintainers and a working supervisor. We submitted a budget proposal to cut 3 of those positions and to then use that money to do some more contracted labor. So we would actually contract out lawn mowing and some restroom cleaning in exchange for those 3 positions. So that left us with the Parks Department supervisor, a crew leader, and 2 full-time grounds positions. And the model served the town well. We've really saved over $1 million in savings over the last 13 years. But as far back as 16, 17, and more recently last year and again this year, we're really recognizing the need to have another full-time employee join our very small department. A lot has changed since 2008 when that proposal took place and we went to contracted labor and we lost those 3 positions. And among the things that have changed since 2008 have been the pesticide ban that is currently in effect at K-8 schools. We do a lot more time-intensive work on the schools since we cannot use pesticides in order to keep the fields playable. We've had renovations to facilities like Kids Kingdom in 2012, Cadogan Park in 2014, the Town Park Beach and Brookfield High School athletic fields, and I've really seen increased use because we have these beautiful state-of-the-art facilities and more people are using them, which makes our jobs to support the usage grow. We had the opening of the Still River Greenway in 2016, and we have a lot of additional regular maintenance duties that go along with that. Everything from garbage collection, removing the leaves, debris, branches, benches, trail signs. Think about every time we have a storm, a windstorm that comes through, one of our first things that we need to do is to go through the greenway, make sure we haven't lost any trees, no leaning trees, what kind of debris is existing. So there's a lot of work that we do to try to keep that valued community resource safe for our residents. And also the establishment of the Town Center District and the streetscape projects have increased our responsibilities. Again, I already had spoken about the banner program, the holiday decorations, and the planters that we have a lot of responsibility for. As we have new phases coming in and more lampposts and more banners and potentially more planters and definitely that pocket park, our responsibilities are just going to keep on growing. So back prior to 2019, we used to hire a lot of part-time seasonal workers in the months of May through August, and that helped us with a lot of our summer tasks, but left us without enough help in the shoulder seasons where we did still have quite a bit of work to do in the spring and in the fall. And so back in March of 2019, for the first time, we hired a full-time temporary seasonal worker to work with us from April through October, and having the 5th person there was just such a benefit for our department. We've had the same employee with us for the last 2 years. We recognize how fortunate we are and that we may not always have that same employee returning back to us in that seasonal position. So from where we sit, what do we think that a full-time employee can give us that we're not currently getting from our part-time seasonal labor? Flexibility, it can be really challenging to find qualified help during the shoulder seasons. And those are among the busiest times that we have. So if we're looking to onboard people in February or March, by March, we're already into the spring sports season at the high school and getting fields online for play. So a lot of the times when we're trying to do our hiring and training, it's actually coinciding with some really very busy times in our department and busy times for our park supervisor in particular. We also are having some more difficulties as years go on. I think everybody's aware that we plow the school parking lots, and getting some additional seasonal help to help us with those, with the plowing. Our 4-person department can't possibly get to every place in a timely manner to make sure the schools can open on time. We do currently use contracted labor for a few different sites that are not at the schools. We've always done the schools in-house, figuring that we want to have full control over what's happening in our schools and make sure that we have that communication directly with the school system, and we know if a delay is needed or if we can open on time every time we have a snow event. But I do think it's time that we think about, do we have enough consistent winter workforce in order to meet the needs that we have at the schools, because we want to make sure that we're continuing to do that. For efficiency, we spend some time year after year retraining people. And we're often onboarding and training seasonal positions during our busiest times. Of note, our park supervisor is a working supervisor, so he spends his time retraining employees rather than doing other tasks. And I think that may not be the best use of his time. Knowledge and experience, our seasonal labor has constraints on what different duties they can do with us. We can't possibly train them in all the different duties and equipment that we use. And then for our continuity of workflow, our 4 full-time employees currently receive a cumulative total of 85 vacation days a year. And assuming 250 work days per year, 34% of the work days, we actually have an employee on vacation. And that doesn't, account for illness, injury, or other circumstances that would take employees out of the office for any reason. And oftentimes we only have 2 full-time employees out of our 4 on site at work, and have to consistently reprioritize what the most important aspects or what the most important duties of the day are, when we might have 10 that are all equally important, and perhaps we can only get to the top 4.
Mary, can I ask you a question about the vacation?
Yeah.
Do you restrict the days that employees can take? And I say this in that I would hate to be an employee and not be able to take summertime off because it's busy, but having an extra person would maybe allow us, to be, kinder to our employees, to allow them to take time that they would want. I don't know. Do you restrict the vacation time so it's only in not busy seasons?
Thank you, Sue. That's a very good point and a very kind point to bring up. I appreciate you asking that. Right now, we do try to make sure that during our busy times that we do not have more than 1 person out on vacation. So if we have 2 employees that would like to have the week of April 15th off, we can't necessarily let both employees take that same week off. We do have to get a little bit more creative. The same as any office would need to do for sure. We don't necessarily have blacked out weeks per se, but we do need to be really, really careful. And we have had conversations with HR about whether or not we may need to move to blackout weeks going forward in the next union negotiations, depending on the staffing levels that we have in our department. So it's definitely a concern and something that we always want to be fair, and we also need to make sure that we have enough personnel to do the tasks that we need to do. So.
Mary, can't that just be in the job description that vacations, vacations need to be worked out to where there's no more than 1? So if the first person who comes who wants April 1st through April 8th, that's April 1 through April 8th, and just have it right in their contract.
Yeah, Harry, to be honest, the union contract is something that I am knowledgeable on, but certainly not to the extent of the HR department. So I'm not quite sure if how it's written currently. I can talk about practice, and in practice, what we do is we try to make sure that we don't have multiple employees out on the same week.
Okay.
Some other considerations when we're thinking about, the value that a full-time employee would bring to the department. And, the work of the Parks Department is very physical work. And with our current staffing levels, our park supervisor in particular has just not been able to take off the vacation time that he is given by the town. And, not taking time off, or if employees cannot take their earned time off, it really does put, I think, the town at an increased risk for the potential of, workers' compensation claims, because everybody needs time to allow their bodies to work, especially those who work in physical jobs. And seasonal help just doesn't have the same knowledge of department operations and can't run the department in absence of our full-time staff. Essential services. During the pandemic, I think it really highlighted how very important the parks are to the community. So not only do we provide essential services to the town through our snow operations and our emergency responses during storms, but also, just by our regular work by maintaining the safe operation of all town parks and facilities. And as I was, kind of sitting down today and thinking about the presentation and thinking about, why it's so important for us to have this additional position, a couple other things kind of popped into my head. One of which is that over the past several years, if you look back over the last 10 years, for example, the number of capital projects and capital equipment purchases that each department or our department were afforded were minimal. We may have 2, maybe potentially 3, maybe 4 in a given year. This year we're looking at potentially having 12 or more capital projects and capital equipment purchases. And while that's fantastic news, it also means that we're going to be using more time of the park supervisor and of myself to make sure that we're following through on those capital projects and purchases. And I think that's an important point to keep in mind is, how much further can we stretch people within the Parks Department's time before it just can't be stretched any further. So our budget as presented, as again, we were asked to stick to a 0% increase, and we were very, very respectful of that request. The budget as presented does not include the next priority request form that we have here. Should a permanent full-time position be funded as the next priority item, it would result in the reduction of our seasonal sporadic wage line by $27,070. And it would increase our full-time union salary line by $53,745. So there will be a net increase in our salary line of about $26,675. Also, in full disclosure, we would have the additional cost for benefits, which would not be seen in our department line item, but would be seen in the employee benefits budget, which is about $30,000.
Mary, going back to the, I just wanted to go back, the four people that we're talking about as far as the vacations go, are they union or non-union?
We currently have 1 non-union and 3 union.
Okay. No, I was just looking. Okay, good. That explains my question, or that answers my question. Okay, good. Thank you.
So Mary, we took a worst case scenario that if we hired somebody full-time, they would take our medical, they would have a family, and they would have children.
I believe so.
That's what it is. Okay.
For your health insurance?
For
Yeah.
health insurance and all the other
Right.
benefits, yeah.
Right.
So the 30,100
Worst
would
case.
be the worst case scenario.
Mhm. Oh, well, would the thought be that the person that you have as seasonal now just move into the full-time position?
He is certainly somebody that would be strongly considered. We have had the opportunity to you can try out somebody, when you hire them seasonally and to see if they're a good fit. And the person that we have been working with is a very good fit. But again, we would be following the hiring process from the town.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. You're giving us a lot to consider here, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions on Mary's budget at all?
I don't think so.
It just amazes me what they are able to accomplish with the few people that they have and the budget that they have. It's amazing.
I agree.
Mary, I did have just a question. It's just for my own knowledge. The docks, the $7,700, for the docks. I think that's for putting in the waterfront docks and taking them out. Is that something that we do, or do we farm that out, or?
Thank you. That's contracted out. We use Tucker to do that on behalf of the town. So they put out the docks, they take them out, and they actually store them for us as well.
Oh, they do store them. Okay. So that includes the storage fee as well.
It does.
How many docks are there?
Oh, goodness, Sue. If I'm going to count up really quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to say maybe 6 to 8, including the catwalks.
Are these boat docks and fingers slips, or are these just docks for the town beach?
Thank you. So we have the courtesy dock for the boat ramp, and then we have our docks that hold our swim line area, our swim team lanes, and then we have a floating dock with a diving board. So it would be all of the docks that are currently present at the waterfront.
And is this 77? Is that for both putting them out and take them in?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes. Years and years ago, we actually used to store some of the docks across the street at Cadogan Park. And we found that they were being used recreationally by skateboarders and others in town. And we thought that the chance for damage was too great. It was actually smarter money to spend having them stored separately.
All right.
That page is scary.
I do have some slides prepared for the capital budgets. I know that we're going to be talking to or I believe we're going to be talking to the Board of Finance at some point in time, and so I have these in for that purpose as well. Basically, I believe we're at the point that we really do want to fully fund the back turf field replacement. I believe the first selectman's budget as presented to Board of Selectmen does include that as being funded at this point in time. I would just like to say that, you know, we're grateful for that, and we really do think it's time, and that we hope that continues to be funded throughout the budget process.
Where is that? Do we have that, Steve? Do we have a capital list for Park and Rec?
Yeah, it's in the last 3 pages of your budget, Harry.
Okay, thank you. Oh yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Thank you.
So, you know, we've discussed this for a couple of years now, and we're getting to the point that this is becoming a safety and health issue, I think. And I think we need to bite the bullet on this one and replace it. And then next year, start putting money away. So in 10 years, we'll have the money, bang, we just replace it.
Well, we had it looked at last year, if I recall.
Right.
And they gave us 1 or 2 more years on it, right?
Yeah, we last
Now
had it
we're there.
tested in 2019. In fairness, we did not have it tested last year, but we are planning to have it tested again in the spring just to see how much time we have left, at least in those areas. So basically, the testing provides a snapshot in time of certain areas on the field, and so you have to take that test results along with guidance that you're getting from the experts to help you determine how much time you have left. But certainly at this point in time, I can honestly say that the back turf field does not owe us anything. We have gotten a good life out of that field, and we want to not wait until we're at the position that we're having issues and we can't use it. We really want to stay ahead of that. I think it's good for the town that we do that.
And that field is 12 years old now?
Yes.
Mary, the full funding is 530, is that?
That is correct.
Okay.
And Mary, 2 years ago, if I remember correctly, the consultant said, you've got maybe a year, 2 years left on the field.
Yeah.
12 years is, I'm very familiar with turf fields. A 12-year lifespan is more than what you can anticipate. But Steve, my point that I'm getting to is, by possibly incorporating the facility building that the Brookfield Athletic Association was trying to put together, coordinating that and combining that with the boys' locker room and putting a facility up at the entrance with restrooms, a ticket booth, locker room for the visiting team, room for the referees. Putting this back field in, this now sets you up to where you could take the money generated through youth tournaments and put that as a reserve for field maintenance. And just through that alone, we would be able to maintain these fields and in 10 years put in a new field at no cost. The monies you can get, the revenue you get through, if you have the facilities, and we would need a facilities building because you just do. Tremendous amounts of money in youth tournaments.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Harry. We just would need a full plan.
Oh yeah, I'm not talking about this year or this budget. I'm just saying.
But somebody would have to put together a plan. This is how many events we think we can hold. This is how much revenue we think we're going to get, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
The other
For
thing,
next replacement, 10 years from now.
right. The other thing we might consider is doing what Newtown does. They charge each of the leagues that use the town's fields a charge per player. And they use that to do all of their turf replacement, everything. And it's a reserve fund that's created, and all lacrosse, soccer, baseball, whatever, it supports all of those fields.
The only problem I have with that, Steve, is it's kind of like pay to participate.
Yeah.
You're now charging people for their kids to play on town property that they're already paying taxes on. That's like double, to me, that's double dipping. And I know Newtown does it. travel sports are different. The Brookfield Travel basketball, they pay a fee to use the gymnasiums in the schools. That I can see, but town organized, Little League soccer stuff. I think I understand what you're saying, but I would not want to go that route. So.
Yeah, that's also understandable. Okay. Okay, so we're going to push this. We're going to take this to the Board of Finance. I think, Sue, Harry, do you agree that should stay in the capital budget?
Yes.
So this
And I think if you look at the page before, how many years we postponed it. We didn't fund it. And now we're in this situation.
Yeah, 10 years. 10 years is about the max what you can really expect from it.
Okay.
I do just want to very quickly mention, and I don't have a slide on it, but as long as we're talking about field replacement, the stadium field at the high school is not that far behind the backfield. They were installed within about a year of each other. Right now, we're looking to see how we can sync the timing of the stadium field replacement and the potential replacement of the track, because the track is also having some different issues. So we're going to take the next few months to try to come up with some plans, talk to some experts, and see what would make sense and how we can sync that, if it's going to be something we'll propose for next fiscal year, or if we think we can get another year out of it. But that's also on the horizon. So knowing that information as well, trying to get the backfield done now so we have one field that we know is in good shape makes a lot of sense, because we know the stadium field is not that far behind.
Yeah.
Steve, is there a reason why we couldn't incorporate that in the school project? Not now, I know we can't, but we couldn't, or?
Well, no, the school project does not allow any work off-site to be done.
Okay, okay.
So like the NBC is planning on rebuilding the fields at Wisconneer. Right. Going into one small and one large field.
Right.
And, creating first-class facilities, and Iroquois has agreed to give us some property.
Right.
Back. But that will be out of the town portion of the new school project. It's not qualified for the match.
Okay. All
right. Another capital resource that we're looking for is the Brookfield High School baseball and softball outfield drainage for engineered plans. And I'm sorry if you can't really see these calendars, but any place you see writing is a day that we had to cancel field use because the fields were too wet to play on at the high school and back in 2019. So what happens is, the high school, their season starts really early. They get onto the fields weeks ahead of any of the youth programs in town. So by mid-March, they're on the fields, and then they're usually playing their first home games by the end of March. Right now, our current fields at the high school, they're great fields, but they do have some drainage issues. And I was going back through a lot of old information, and even back so far as 1994, 1995, 1996, we've known that there have been some drainage issues at these particular facilities. So prior to 2021, so prior to this year, if we had wet field conditions at the high school, we would move the games off site. Within Brookfield, we would go to Huck 90 for baseball and Patak or Cadigan Field for softball. And sometimes we would move them, or they would be moved to other towns where the high school would be playing as a home team on a neutral site. So now we're in a situation that starting next month, we're not going to have the Huckleberry 90 field or the Huckleberry 60 field any longer because of the new school construction. And so we don't have another 90 field in town in which to move the high school baseball field if it is too wet to be played on. So last year, this was in our capital plan. It was actually bumped to be funded at $261,000. That would have included the cost of the engineering plan and what we anticipated to be the maximum construction cost based on what we knew from talking to folks in the field. Last year, the $261,000 was actually approved by the Board of Selectmen and approved by the Board of Finance. And then it ended up being taken out of the budget as a COVID adjustment because the project was slated for completion in the fall of 2020, and we knew that we wouldn't have the bonded funding in which to pay for the project. So I'm just giving you this history because I want folks, here to know that this is something that was not only introduced, but approved up to a certain point last year to be fully funded. What we were suggesting for this year is we were asking for $30,000 to at least pay for the engineered drawings. So we would have a more accurate idea of what the actual construction costs are going to be. Of course, if town leadership would want to give us the full 261, we would say thank you and we would go with that as well. But we're looking for at least the $30,000 that we can start getting some better information on how to address these ongoing problems at the high school.
Steve, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Is this not a large enough expense to where it would be bonded? Would this be a capital project that would be reflected in?
It's a capital project, but we would pay cash if it was a 30,000. We would borrow if it was a full 261.
So this would be a bonded project and not something that would affect the our annual budget for next year?
Right. You know, I thought there was a change. I wish in the capital that we had the full cost in there and then a subcategory for design only. Because it was approved last year. Mary's right.
If that's the case, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Change that.
If that's the case, Steve, then why wouldn't we, if we're going to bond, if it's a $550,000 project that's going to be bonded and not affect this, this coming capital budget, then why wouldn't we tie the 230 into it and do both projects and bond both projects, get both done?
Yeah, no, that's a good idea, Harry. Sue, what do you think?
I mean, I'm not in favor of more bonding, but this is something that has to be done, and I just don't think we can put this on the back of the residents in this budget. And I think this is when you need to bond. This is a perfect example of when you need to go there.
I agree with Harry. I mean, these are projects that we've talked about for years and have pushed off, and now it's safety. And I agree. I think they need to get done, and if we can bond them and not affect this year's, bottom line because of, COVID, people losing jobs and whatever. No, I agree with Harry.
Okay, so the suggestion is to change the 30,000 to 261,000 and put it in as a bonded project.
Yeah.
Along that field.
Yeah.
Now, how close do you think you are with the 261 figure, Mary, though, if you're saying that you wanted a design to get a true cost?
Thank you, Sue. So we actually went to bid on the project design cost last spring in April. So we're very confident that for the $30,000, we had several different firms that were prepared. One of the firms that we were working with more closely actually gave me the figure of the 231 that not to exceed. So I'm fairly confident. I know we're in the ballpark. It may not be exact, but I know we're very much in the ballpark.
What about the 261?
I think that's what she's talking about.
Well, 231 plus 30 for the design, right?
Correct.
That's what you're saying.
Oh, okay.
So you're saying that you're comfortable with the 231 plus the 30 design?
Yeah. Now that's a year later, but Steve, and I don't know if you know this for like just oversight of the whole town, but are construction firms looking for jobs now?
Yes.
That they would be more kind with their costs?
Yes.
Or
Yes,
is everyone looking for projects to get done now and their prices are going up?
No, firms are looking for jobs. If we take the school project, we are comfortably within budget on the school project across the board. So firms are looking for jobs. I think a lot of towns have just completely pulled back. A lot of them are trying to achieve very low tax increases by using general funds in their operating budget, one-time fixes or cutting out projects. So I think that the fact that there are not as many projects out there, this is a feel I get from other first selectmen and mayors, and the fact that we can borrow. We talked to bond counsel, our bond advisors today, and they think that we will be borrowing pretty much at the same rate as we did last summer at 1.55%. Those are historically low rates to borrow at. I mean, our 10-year capital plan we did 2 years ago, we're updating now, both between 4 and 6%.
Right. So I was going to ask, how does this affect our 10-year?
Yeah. We could fit it in the 10-year plan. I'm sure we could.
especially if we're getting lower interest rates.
Yeah, it helps an enormous amount.
Yeah.
We have to remember, we got lower interest rates, and so we cut the time period from 30 years to 20 years. So in year 21, it'll be a lot of savings.
Yeah.
Steve, I have a question for you or Marcia. I'm not sure about our bylaws or charter, but would it be possible to look for sponsorship from, just offered to maybe Union Savings or Iroquois, a sponsorship of, helping out with the cost of that for advertising and for just general knowledge of having them. I know that there are restrictions on naming buildings and stuff after people and whatever, but
both, Harry, but it's someone like Iroquois, we've had discussions with them and they want to work with the town. And I'd be more comfortable asking them for the new facility you want.
Yeah.
At
Okay.
1.2 million.
Yeah. I was very hesitant to mention Iroquois because they have been so generous. And,
Yeah.
But I mean, but even reach out to others. I don't know if we want to go that route or not, but I just thought I would bring it out.
Right. No,
Mary?
that's not possible. We can always take a donation from anyone. Naming something would be a problem, I think,
Right.
but a lot of these. Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
Mary, could you talk to the sponsorships that we already have and how it's done and where the money goes?
In terms of for banners, Marcia, or?
Yeah. Yes, at the fields that.
Did you have the scoreboard? Was the scoreboard
That
donated?
was donated by
That was
Pepsi.
donated by Iroquois.
Iroquois or Pepsi? I thought it was Pepsi.
Iroquois gave us $25,000 when Tony was, and I thought that was for the scoreboard.
This could be.
Well, Mary probably knows.
I'm so sorry to admit this, but I'm not quite sure. The high school scoreboard, I don't think was managed through the Park and Rec department. So I have, vague recollections, but I don't have specific.
I believe, Mary, I believe there's a sign right on it underneath it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're probably right. So, Mary, the question that Marcia raised is like the banners we have at the high school, right?
Yeah.
Who manages that and where does the money go?
So the banner programs vary by site. I believe that the Booster Club is the organization that manages the banners at the high school. It's not managed through Park and Rec. Park and Rec, the only site that we manage is actually Cadigan Field.
Mary, I'm not sure if
Tack.
I'm not sure if Park and Rec does that. I know that was when I was president of it, that was the Brookfield High School Athletic Association's project. And we used that money to generate our day-to-day costs for trying to get this building put up. Then they changed the name to, I can't remember what it was. I can't remember what it was. Nick Castellano will know for sure where that money is and what it's, if it's being collected every annually or not. But Nick would be the one that has that information.
Okay.
Good. And then I think like at the baseball fields, the Brookfield Baseball Association monitors those.
Correct.
Those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh, tennis.
Looks like Marcia's moving me on to tennis courts. Thanks, Marcia. So again, just here for a little bit of history. Right now, we're in a position that we're still crack sealing the tennis courts. We're hoping to get a couple more years out of them. We're putting away money for the full replacement. And then over the course of the next several months, we're going to be getting some firm numbers and some better ideas of what we think is going to make the most sense for the town. So currently, we can replace the 4 existing courts on site. We can use the same site and expand to 5 courts, or we can consider moving the courts to an alternate location nearby to the high school, but not actually on the high school property, which also has some benefits, but it might be the most expensive option. And so we're going to be spending some time getting some better detail and working through that process. But right now we are still putting money away. We're grateful for that. We aren't that far away from needing to replace those all for sure.
Okay, a couple more years of cracking. Okay, good. Crack seal.
Yeah. And then we just put up a few different additional budget equipment requests that we had here. In speaking with Chris, we had asked for a couple of smaller dollar items in terms of other asks that we have for replacement bodies on a couple of our older trucks, and we're just, hoping that those could be reviewed a little bit more carefully. We do have some significant rust issues on them, and we do feel that they're starting to become more kinds of safety issues. So even though we may not have prioritized them in a very high number, it's just because we had so many real needs this year that we would ask that those could be reviewed again to see if we could get the replacement bodies for the 2 trucks that we have there. I do know so far right now, I think that the Bobcat Toolcat replacement they rely on is still currently moving forward. The zero-turn mowers are currently moving forward. And we've also have a request for the Cat 908M compact wheel loader with a plow and bucket, which is moving forward currently. Also hoping we can maybe talk a little bit about the buffalo blower attachment. It's something that we've been asking for the past couple of years. It's used really frequently in clearing off the Still River Greenway. So what we do is we attach it to the front of the Bobcat Toolcat, and it basically blows off the debris off of the pathway. And so when we have, the storms, whether they're springtime storms and the leaves come down, or the fall storms and the leaves come down, that particular implement really allows us to keep a good handle on the maintenance of the Greenway.
Mary, can I ask you about the Greenway?
Yeah.
I drove by the other day, and it appeared as if at least a portion of it had been plowed.
Yeah.
Are you plowing that now?
Yes, and so as we all know, it's marked that there's no winter maintenance because we can't salt the area. When time allows, Chris does make it a priority to try to at least plow off the blacktop areas. We don't touch the bridges, but we do try to plow off the blacktop because we recognize that a lot of people rely on that for use.
Yeah, yes, especially this year. Yeah, no, I was very pleased to see that.
Excellent. And Chris and I are sitting in separate rooms. So I just wanted to kind of shout out to Chris over Zoom that if he has anything that he'd like to speak to in terms of capital needs, that I would certainly welcome him to jump in or chime in at any point.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. No, I mean, we're the things that we requested are just to try to keep us, efficient within our crew size, and just be able to get things done on a more timely basis. It's more out of, a lot of this is more out of necessity. A lot of our facilities now have just really seen a huge increase in use, and I suppose as a positive in this COVID era, it's nice that we have for people to use. And I really don't anticipate that to really drop off now that people know it's there. So things like the Buffalo blower, yeah, we use it a lot for turf products, for turf and leaf blowing in the greenway. And a lot of times what we'll do is we'll do a grooming process on the synthetic fields, but I can have a guy take that with him at the same time, because part of that process is, once you groom everything off, is to blow the loose debris off the field after that. So it just makes everything a little more timely. It allows us to keep a little more regimented schedule. Right now, you're a lot of what we do, and of course I know that you know that, but is all weather dependent. So in periods of really inclement weather, you can get pretty thrown off schedule. So being as efficient as we can is really paramount to really being able to take care of our facilities in a top-notch manner that Brookfield deserves, and that we try to do. And with the newer facilities and possible projects coming back up online and some renovations, it's going to be important to take care of those things so you get the 10-year lifespan, the 12-year lifespan. And for us, getting around the schools and plowing and being able to move snow, because teacher parking, all that type of thing is very full in every school. We need the capabilities to be able to move quick and be able to, we're a little bit different than the highway department in the sense of we're kind of like the last people that everybody thinks about, but you know, you can't do anything in the school unless the areas are plowed and salted and taken care of. So yeah, some of that, the CAT compact wheel loader is really looking to replace more or less a dump truck, something that it can take over the road, something that'll allow me to transform a plow into a pusher box so that we can move and load snow, have something that doesn't take up my biggest garage bay, because with the older backhoe that we have current use of, if I don't keep it indoors, we never know if it'll start. So most of this stuff, like I said, is just to try to keep things top notch, available for use. And, you know, it's kind of something that's always evolving. And, you know, so you try to stay on top of things, and you got to keep your guys trained on the use of this particular types of equipment, because you want to get maximum efficiency out of it. So it's, they're all things that we can use. And, you know, I just appreciate, you know, everybody at least taking a look at and making consideration into it. And should you have, you know, further questions on a particular piece of equipment, you know, please let me know. But everything more or less is just to keep us going and being able to operate at the level that we do, and hopefully to increase that. And it's really kind of tough to do that. We really kind of maximize everything for our manpower and our time and weather considerations. We're pretty maxed out on a daily basis. We're always busy.
Well, Chris, Mary, the decisions that I made were based on prior year discussions and also your ranking, you know, how you rank these in your requests.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you a question. If you gave up could you give up one of your zero-turn mowers to get some of the other things, the Buffalo blower or replace the body of the 2011 rack?
The zero-turn mower are the only problem with that. And because we were really kind of in a position of already kind of past replacement from the previous year.
That's true for everything we do.
Our other mower has just been a constant source of just trying to keep it going. So while I do have other sources of mowing, they're not really necessarily efficient. I can do it in a pinch. I can use that particular piece of equipment in a place if it's down, but the downtime last year and the amount of money in repairs was just getting to the point where it really wasn't worth it. You know,
the answer is no.
Right, pretty much.
Yeah,
I
just wanted to ask, because we have literally, you know, $20 million of requests.
Yes.
And we're still catching up. I wish we could say yes to everything every single year. You know, we push stuff 4, 5, 6 years past its useful lifetime consistently.
Correct. And it's, you know, it's one of those things without really, you know, an in-house mechanic, you know, so our downtime is critical. So it does get to a point where it doesn't make a lot of sense to just keep trying to keep older equipment going, because we're spending too much time in the garage. But things like the Buffalo blower, like I said, it's something that, could we put it off? Sure, we could put it off. I mean, it's just one of those things that would just make things a little bit quicker.
And a lot more.
It's not necessarily a luxury. It just makes it a little more efficient. But I understand, you know, look, you'd love to have everything if you could.
Sure.
But yes, I do understand, you know, you got to prioritize it. And sometimes it's hard to do that. And sometimes things happen in the previous year, which, you know, make it difficult to kind of come into your next budget season with a firm plan.
Yep, that's true.
So what, you know, the problem that I'm seeing, and I've been involved in athletics my whole life, and you know, I've coached over 3,000 kids in town, so there is not a bigger advocate for athletics or activities than I am. We've got about $20 million that we need to spend on capital things, and you know, we cannot put a burden on the residents this year with our budget. Mm-hmm. So if we're going to be spending money, then it's got to come from someplace in my view, it's got to come from someplace in our budget. We have to reallocate money. We can't just, we can't have we just can't be looking at burdening the people at this point. EMS is has people whose lives are on the line, and they need more people just to get make those calls. So I appreciate this. We're in a very tough position where we have to do something where we don't have anything, and so in my estimation, we have to reallocate. How are we going to do that? I have no idea. But Sue, I wanted to ask you a question. Are you following this in the book? Because I see no capital items at all in capital.
No, that's a part of, actually, I was just looking it up on my phone because it was emailed to us.
Oh, that's not in the book. Okay.
Yeah, correct.
Harry, you got this, right?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I do have that. I'm sorry.
It's the last 3 pages of this.
Okay. I thought you had said it was in the back of the folder. But.
Yeah, it's in the back of, it's the last 3 pages of the budget.
Okay, but it's not in our budget book. That's what I'm saying. It's that was emailed to us separately.
Correct. And Ginny printed it for you. So if you
Right.
printed,
Yeah, no, I have a copy of it, Marcia. I didn't. I thought it was in here. That's
yeah.
Okay. Good. Anyways, Chris, I would like to get as much as we can to you, but the school wants it. They want a dump truck. They want it. They're not a dump truck, but they want a pickup truck. I'll tell you, I think it's going to be very difficult to be spending money on vehicles this year and equipment. I really do. I'll try to do as much as we can, but it's got to come from someplace, and it can't come from in my estimation, it can't come from the residents' pockets. So I'm not sure how we're going to do this, but.
Well, I certainly understand everybody's position, and like I said, it's I'm not asking for the sense of out of a selfish sense or anything else like that. It's just more or less just trying to be able to keep us going, and like I said, there are certain pieces of equipment. It gets to a point where you just have too much downtime and too many repairs. But look, anything that we can get within our budget requests, I'm grateful for. And I do understand that the residents of this town and many towns, have suffered greatly and have gone through a lot of hardship. So I can understand, you're looking at capital requests, and, it's a tough thing to kind of pull out of the budget at this point. But, anything that can kind of help us make us more efficient, looking towards, the new school build and, the increased usage of the Greenway and the Main Street project. These are all things that we're going to have to take care of. So while I do understand, it's a tough year to be asking, residents to come up with extra money. I just ask you to use your best judgment, and which I know you will, and whatever we can get that will help us. I'm grateful for, and we'll just continue to keep trying to push ahead and make the town look nice and make it a desirable place for people to come. And that's my goal. And my goal is to, make Mary a happy boss, and, make everybody else in this town, proud of a place to come and play sports and enjoy the parks. And
yeah, I understand, Chris. I understand. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So just to echo what Chris was saying, we're very fortunate here at Parks and Rec because we just need to be concerned and talk about what we know and what we're responsible for. And then once it leaves our hands, we totally understand that the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance, need to take all of the different considerations into town, not only Parks and Rec, but all the different departments who all have very real needs and really weigh what the town can support and what the town can't support. So again, I just want to thank you for the time and the opportunity to present what we feel the needs are. And we feel like we've done our job, just letting you all know what the needs are. And if Chris and I can, answer any follow-up questions this evening, or as you start deliberations, we'll be happy to do that.
I'd love to get you as much as we can, Mary, really. But again, I'm talking more to Steve and Sue. That my feeling is we got to figure out how we're going to get it out of what we have, not what we're going to charge people. So I'd love to help you as much as we can.
Thank you, Harry. We appreciate
Understood.
that.
Thank you very much.
So do we have any further questions for Parks and Rec? Mary and Chris?
No, thank you very much. It was very thorough and a lot of information. It was great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, is there anything else we want to discuss tonight? Or- Those are the two departments we were going to cover.
Yep, that's tonight.
Okay, so I think we're pretty much done for the evening.
Mhm.
Want to thank you guys.
Tomorrow we have what? Land use and library, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
But then we have the 7 o'clock at the high school. So
Oh, that's
are they
right.
aware of our timing on this?
You know, yeah,
Have you talked to either one of those, Steve?
yes, yes. We just, land use has not changed hardly at all. I don't think that's going to be a long discussion. We're just going to have Alice make a presentation. Because you've seen their budgets, they're not changing hardly at all from last year.
I mean, that gives us 45 minutes each. I mean, that'll get us out at 6:30. That should be fine.
That should be enough. It should be enough. Should.
That's an hour and 15 for 2.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to try to slip that by.
Okay, that should be enough. If not, we'll have to just adjourn and ask them to come back.
Yeah.
We haven't finished.
Who's first? Land uses first? Yeah.
Yeah, I think land
Yeah.
use is first.
Yeah, no, that'll work. It'll work.
And I'll just reiterate to them tomorrow, you got 30, 35 minutes.
Yeah.
Make
Yeah.
it
We
worthwhile.
don't really need, I don't know. I know that do we have anybody online with us?
I'm sorry?
We're being recorded.
Oh, we are being recorded. Okay, no. Then we do have to go through all the,
Yeah. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Do I have a motion?
I'll second it. Or I'll make a motion to adjourn, or second it. Okay, I wasn't listening.
Okay, Harry's making a motion. Sue, you want to second it?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
All
Aye.
right.
Great. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you tomorrow night.
Have a good
Yep.
night.
Okay, bye-bye.